The next chapter in class 9 is matter around us pure? So starting with this chapter, before starting this thing, is matter around us pure? What is the meaning of pure here in chemistry? Pure substances are which kind of substances? Those substances which will have only one kind of particles in them. Materials which have one kind of particles in them. Now, what is the meaning of one kind of particles? These particles can be atoms or these particles can be molecules. So, on the basis of the substance has atoms in it or it has molecules in it, further pure substances are divided into two categories: elements and compounds. So what are elements? Elements are those substances which will have one kind of atoms in them. They have one kind of atoms in them. For example, if we take copper element, it will have all the atoms of copper which will be having the same mass, shape, size, volume, properties. Everything will be same in these particles. Like if we take copper element and these are the atoms of copper in it, like we are taking a copper coin. In copper coin there are copper atoms and all these atoms will be of same size, shape, every property will be same. These all are copper atoms in an copper element. Similarly, if we take silver, then silver will also have the silver atoms in it. There will be silver atoms in it. Again, these atoms of silver will be of same type. In every property they will match. All these are silver atoms. So what are elements? Elements are those substances which will have one kind of atoms in them. Now next we have classification of elements. To study elements, we are classifying these elements and these are further divided into metals, metalloids and non-metals. Elements further are of three types: metals, metalloids and non-metals. First is pure substance, which is of two types: elements and compounds. Now we are studying elements. Elements further are of three types: metal, metalloids and non-metals. So our next topic now is the properties of metals, non-metals and what are metalloids. Metals. From all the naturally occurring elements, approximately 70 are metals. Some general properties of metals. Like first property, metals are solid at room temperature. Metals are solid at room temperature. But in this we have one exception. That exception is mercury. It is liquid at room temperature. And then gallium and cesium. These also become liquid but above 303 Kelvin temperature. Second property of metals is metals are malleable. Now what is malleable? If we take a metal and start beating it with hammer, if we start beating it like this, it will start flattening up and ultimately it will change to the thin sheet. So metals are beaten into thin sheets without breaking, and these thin sheets are actually called foils. And these foils, they are used in many things. So what is malleability? Changing the metal into thin sheets without breaking it is called malleability. One example is silver foil. It is used for decorating sweets. On the top of some sweets we see a silver color. That silver foil is used just for the decoration purpose. Next example is aluminium foils. We use to wrap food or medicines, cigarettes, any other food items, chips and all that. Aluminium foil is used for that purpose. Next property, metals are ductile. Now what is the meaning of ductile? Metals can be drawn or stretched into wires. The metal will be drawn. It is pulled like this, stretched like this, and it will change into the thin wires. That is known as ductility. Changing the metal to thin wires by stretching it is called ductility. Copper and aluminium are highly ductile metals, and from these wires are made which are used for conduction of electricity. So these are used for making electrical wires. Next property is metals are good conductors of heat and electricity both. They are conductor of heat and electricity. Metals conduct heat. That is why metals are used for making of cooking utensils, in which we have to cook the food so that the heat from outside should reach inside. So they are made up of copper and aluminium. Mostly the containers, utensils for cooking purpose are made up of copper and aluminium because they are best conductors of heat. But now again, one exception we have here is mercury is a poor conductor of heat, and lead is the porous conductor. It is the porous conductor of heat. Similarly, metals are good conductors of electricity. Copper and aluminium, like here we have done, they are used for making of electrical wires. And here again, mercury is a poor conductor of electricity. Next property after these four properties of metals, fifth property. Metals are lustrous. Metals are lustrous. Lustrous means they have a shiny surface. When freshly prepared, after that coming in contact with oxygen, they can have a dull surface also. But freshly prepared metals, they have a shiny surface, and this property is known as metallic luster. Example, silver. It has a shiny white surface. Shining white surface. Gold has a shiny yellow surface. Copper has a shiny reddish brown color. Because they are shiny in nature, that is why these are used in making of jewelry. Because they have a bright shining surface, that is why these are used in making of jewelry. Next property, metals are generally hard. Iron, aluminium, copper, etc. They are very hard. However, there are some metals like sodium and potassium. These are quite soft metals and can be easily cut with a knife. They are so soft that we can cut them easily with a knife. Metals, they have a high tensile strength. Now, what is the meaning of tensile strength or high tensile strength? This means metals can hold large weights. If metal can hold or element can hold a large weight, we say this has a high tensile strength without breaking. For example, iron as steel alloy has a very high tensile strength. Due to this, this is used in making or in the construction of buildings. Steel is used in making of the utensils in construction of building and in construction of bridges, railway lines and vehicles also, because of its high tensile strength. Next property is metals have high melting and boiling points. Their melting and boiling points are very high because they are hard. Hard means the bonding is strong. Sodium and potassium are soft. So sodium and potassium, they have low melting points. Low melting points. Next property, metals have high densities. The packing is closed, that is why they are hard, so their densities are high. Again, except for sodium and potassium, because these are soft, not hard, so packing of atoms is not very close, so their densities are low. Next property, the last property of metals, metals are sonorous. Metals are sonorous. This means metals, they make a ringing sound. They make a ringing sound when hit. When two pieces of metal they are hit, they make a ringing sound. That is called that they are sonorous in nature. That is why metals are used for making bells and wires of musical instruments like sitar, guitar, etc. Metals are used. These are the properties of metals. Now moving on to the non-metals now. Properties of non-metals. First property of non-metals. Non-metals may be solid, liquid or gases at room temperature. They can be solid, liquid or gases at room temperature. For example, boron, carbon, sulfur, they all are solid non-metals. Then bromine is a liquid non-metal, only one. Then hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, all these non-metals, they are in a gaseous state. They are in a gaseous state. So non-metals can be solid, liquid or they are in a gaseous state. Second property, non-metals, they have different colors. Metals, they mostly are grayish white in color except for the copper and gold, which are yellow in color. Non-metals, they come in different colors. Like sulfur, this has yellow color. phosphorus is of two types, white or red. The red phosphorus is used on the top of the matchstick. That red color is the red phosphorus actually. Graphite is a type of carbon only. Coal, which is black in color. Chlorine is a gas which is of yellowish green in color. Bromine in a gaseous form or liquid form has a reddish brown color. Oxygen, nitrogen, hydrogen, these gases, these are colorless. So non-metals, they come in different colors. Next is, they are neither malleable nor ductile. Because if we'll hammer the metal and try to make the thin sheets from it, it will break. And if we'll try to stretch the non-metal to make wires, then also it will break. So non-metals actually are brittle. They are brittle and break into pieces. So that is why they are neither malleable nor they are ductile. Next, non-metals are non-conductors of heat and electricity. They do not conduct heat and electricity. But however, diamond an allotrope of carbon. It is an allotrope of carbon is a good conductor of heat. It is a good conductor of heat. And graphite, not example, exception only. Graphite is also an allotrope of carbon, and this is a good conductor of electricity. It is a good conductor of electricity. These two are exceptions in non-metals. So that is why graphite is used for making of electrodes of batteries and the dry cells. Next property. Non-metals, they have dull appearance. Metals have shiny surface. Non-metals, they have dull appearance. But exception here is iodine, which has a shiny surface. Next property, non-metals are generally soft, but exception here is diamond, that is carbon, allotrope of carbon. It is extremely hard. Next is non-metals have low melting and boiling points. Their melting and boiling points are quite low. They have low densities because they are soft. Melting points and boiling points are low, so they have low densities, and they are not snorers. They are not snorers. These are the properties of non-metals. Now we have metalloids. Metalloids are actually the borderline elements. These are borderline elements. They show properties of metals and some properties of non-metals. Some of metal and some of non-metals. Example, silicon, germanium, bismuth, arsenic. These are examples of metalloids. So these are the properties of metals, non-metals, and what are metalloids.